Here is Cello Blue, and this is a blast from the past for me to have Cello back here. I had Cello when he was right off the track as a 5 year old, and he came off the track as a 17 hand 5 year old back in August of 2023, so like exactly 3 years ago. He ran 30 times, he made 110K. His last couple of starts had not been very productive, and so it was just sort of a time to call it quits on his racing career. 30 starts for a 5 year old at the time was plenty. He last ran on 819 and he showed up and he was big and beautiful, super easy to ride. He was a handful on the ground when he was right off the track. I will say that. He's a big horse and he's playful and could be a little pushy. And I do remember on the ground, he was quite a handful, but he was so easy to ride. So anyway, a professional bottom, and she's had him for the last 3 years, and he has done a ton of stuff. I mean, the horse has spent the last 2 winters in Ocala, where he's done a bunch of schooling shows at WEC and has done the LCT shows, which stands for the Local Champions Tour. He has shown up to a meter. I'm told he has a really easy change. He has most recently, I think for the last year, he's been leased out to a kid, which is wild because he now sticks 17 and a half hands and he's just a really big bodied horse. He's long, he's thick, he's tall, he's really big. So for him to be leased out successfully to a kid really says a lot about, his demeanor and his temperament, and he's just a joy to ride. And so with the kid, he actually did a bunch of showing with his child Lisi, and they did a bunch of local stuff and some UDJC shows. Sorry, I had to actually look up the acronym for that. United Dressage and Jumping Club, I want to say, is what that stands for. So anyway, he's done a lot of shows. Moral of the story. And with the kid, Lisa, he showed up to 0.85 meters. So anyway, this horse has a world of experience. He's traveled a ton. He came to me from Indiana, traveled across the country to his new owner, has done 2 winters in Florida, came back to me. So he's a very experienced traveler. He's been to a ton of shows, and he feels like it. I mean, getting on him today, this was my first ride back on him since he's been here. And the horse was just literally an absolute delight. He was perfect. I mean, the horse is so well schooled. He's obviously been really well developed. And, I know that she had kids leasing him and working students riding him. And so he's obviously a very trustworthy horse in the saddle. It's very obvious to me. I actually think I have Alyssa for a little bit longer. Like I have Alyssa for one more week until she goes back to school. I think I'm going to have her set on him tomorrow. And she'll look like such a little peanut on him because he's such a big horse and she's so small. But I think they'll have a great ride and it'll be cool to have a little bit of video of her riding him. So anyway, things about Cello. Besides the fact that he's absolutely wonderful and dreamy to ride, and it was just so nice to just get on this horse that I haven't seen in years and just get on him, and he's a nice schooled up horse, and it was just such a lovely, easy, drama-free ride. But okay, other things about Cello. He has no vices, no actual injuries. I mean, he has an old splint from a few years ago on his left front somewhere. I know that I meant to try and feel it today, but I don't even recall it, so it must be pretty small. So I don't think that's anything to worry about. I was told that in the spring, he knocked a rail or something and he hung his stifle up on it. So I guess he made, I think it was his left stifle a little bit sore by getting hung up on this rail. But, basically just made his joint a little sore, and a couple weeks later he was totally fine. And most recently he did a jumping clinic a week or two ago, so he's totally fine. He all his legs look clean and tight and his feet look great, and so I have and he feels wonderful, so zero concerns from me about this horse in terms of he's sound, he's clean, he has no vices, no injuries. I don't really consider a splint to be an injury. That's just something that most horses are going to get over the course of their life. let's see, I'm riding him in an egg butt snaffle with a peanut. You know, he is a really big horse, but he is not strong at all. So credit to all the people who have helped to develop him, because that's wonderful. It's awful to take a really big, strong horse and then make them into strong horses. Nobody wants to ride that. And he is most certainly not. He is super light and soft, wants to be round and correct. Today, actually, he really was just into the stretch, which I thought was fantastic. You know, his first ride here, since he had a huge haul a couple of days long across the country to get here. So it was really nice that he wanted to do some stretching. And my goodness, he was huffing and puffing. You know, he's not used to this East Coast humidity that we get here. So he was pretty tired pretty quickly. So we didn't do too much today. But I'm basically just going to throw him in with my personal horses, I think, and consider him in that bunch. Kind of like the same thing I did as Tenny. He's going to go, I'll start bringing him along when I go take lessons. I've got a whole bunch of stuff I need to do with Bounce in the next month or two, and Cardinal, assuming that he's ready to come back to work now from his splint. And so this horse can start going to some schooling shows with me, lessons. I'll take him cross-country schooling. He's just going to sort of hit the ground running with me. We're going to go do a whole bunch of stuff and see what he's all about. And I'm sure that at some point in the not too distant future, his human will come knocking, because he's just... he's an absolute delight. Now, I will say on the ground, you know, so 3 years now have gone by since he's come off the track, and his ground manners are like 95% better. He's a different horse. But I will say, you know, he is a big horse. So if you are a person who is nervous around horses on the ground, and you're the type of person that's going to kind of let the horse take control of the situation, then this is not the right horse for you, because he is a big, confident horse on the ground. And, you know, he's kind of goofy, and he's a little mouthy. You know, he's just kind of the type of horse that wants to put everything in his mouth. And like you'll see here, we got some on the ground footage, and he loves playing with the hose, and that's great. That's wonderful. We should let him play with the hose and put his, you know, get the water in his mouth and splash around, and that's so fun, and it's all great. But he's kind of like that with everything. So, you know, if that bothers you, or that's something where you know that you're likely to let the horse take it too far, then maybe he's not the right horse for you. Things like that. And he is just a really big horse. So there's a big difference between a horse who's almost 17-1 being a little excited to get turned out, and a horse that's, you know, 15 two hands being a little excited to get turned out. You know, he's twice the size. So he does need a human on the ground who's not afraid to say, like, hey, actually, we're gonna, you know, walk at my speed, not at your speed. All of this being said, I really don't think that there's anything alarming or concerning going on here. And I mean, he's been successfully leased out by a child and horse shown and all of that stuff. So I think that as long as there is a professional overseeing, or you just know that you are a confident person that, you know, can be the boss of the horse, which is what we should all be striving to be, a good patient leader. That's all he needs, is just someone who's going to be, you know, calmly in charge.